First Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
A very good morning to all our viewers. I'm not Faraz Shaukat Ali, I'm Ravi Shugal Bandara, sitting in for Faraz Shaukat Ali, who is taking a small break. Very good morning to all our viewers during this festive season. We will be discussing a bit of a serious issue today. Now, a topic that has been debated over the past couple of weeks is the appointment of a super minister or super ministers, and the bill that enables this, that is the Development Special Provisions Bill of 2016, which is still being debated, which is still being drafted. It has not been enacted in Parliament yet, but it is the center of much controversy. So, in order to unravel all this and discuss deeply about this draft bill, we have an eminent person with us, Dr. Chandra Jayaratne. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Mr. I'm not doctor by any chance.
So, Mr. Chandra Jayaratne, you are the former chairperson of the Chamber of Commerce. Tell us, this says it tries to facilitate the formulation of a national policy for speedy economic development. You've studied this bill. Yeah. Do you think that this can actually achieve something like this?
Yeah, I've studied the bill, but this bill is not new. It's not only gazetted in November. This draft has been available for nearly a year. And the original first bill that came in had some good provisions which are not here in this bill. And some of the bad provisions, or the provisions that would never have passed the Constitutional Court, has been taken out. I'd like to start with few of those very quickly. First section of the bill earlier was the appointment of an eminent panel of academics, economists, practitioners, advisors, to advise as form a council to be available to advise the President and the Prime Minister whenever they need.
So this is not there in this bill?
This bill has totally taken out. So this is a bill which originally intended to bring in people, bring in the views of experts, and then to start whatever you are doing has now been taken out and replaced by a general council which is selected of 6 people who are selected by the minister along with some of his ministerial colleagues. At the same time, the previous bill had some draconian provisions that you could not, they could go to court and get an order in the appeal court. If they think that you are going to obstruct something, they could do that.
Okay.
And you had no choice. There was no second appeal. If they got this order, that was it. If they were going to take some land over, you could not contest it in court.
Okay.
So I think those provisions which should have been definitely been struck off the list.
But still, this current draft bill does have powers allowing the boards and the agencies formed by this bill to take over whatever land they want, right?
That's there. But the provision of the normal fundamental rights and appeal writ court orders will remain, because I think they would have realized that they cannot take that away as long as the Constitution has given. Now, one of the clear problems here in this bill is whether it's constitutional. Now, our Constitution is based upon a democratic management of power vesting in a cabinet of ministers. Now, here the cabinet of ministers is being bypassed. In many instances, there's cross-cutting instructions, programs, reviews. Of course, it's going to be placed before the ministers, placed before Parliament, adopted, and thereafter it's going to be just across. It's not going to be collectively run by a cabinet.
Okay.
You used the word super minister, but what I'm trying to say is some individuals, a set of individuals who are trying to take the running of the entirety of the policy development, policy planning, the review of policy as it goes on, and giving implementation directions are going to be concentrated. Now, this is coming at a time when we are talking about a new constitution in which we are going to devolve power to the base. And this is a set of people in government who came in promising us Gram Raj. If you go that was that they are going to build
this
from
government,
the base.
And the president ran on a platform of devolving power, getting rid of the executive presidency itself, But then again, powers of the executive presidency seem to be more powers than the executive presidency seem to be vested in these ministers through this bill.
And also the presidential powers as it is today, present constitution or even what is being likely to come, the president has only 3 roles in this. He has a role in being a meeting the people
Once a year.
once a year in a conference. Second is he's a member of the Rural Development, Rural Modernization Commission. Thereafter he has no executive power or any actions on this. Leave that aside. To me, the biggest problem is if we are going to, rightly or wrongly, we have taken that we are going to be 13 amendment plus. Now this is taking away the powers of some other functions which are now going to come under this. It's going to take away the total power of the Provincial Council. Now here again, some of the policies to be made, directions to be given, all they need is to consult, not concurrence. So whether this bill, which affects the provincial councils, by our present constitution will require the approval of all the provincial councils before it becomes law. Now, I don't know whether that will happen.
Well, on that note, I need to tell you some information that we just received this morning. Word that this development special provisions bill was defeated in the UWA Provincial Council. Chief Minister Chandra Jayaratne said that 9 votes were cast in favor of the draft bill, while 13 votes were cast against this special provisions draft bill. So do you think that this is signs to come? Because this is just the UWA Provincial Council. I'm pretty sure the Northern Provincial Council, the Central, and all these people would vote in a similar pattern, because they have spoken to us on earlier occasions and they have said that they oppose this special draft bill. What do you think will happen?
Well, I think it is going totally against what was promised at the elections, and it is against their interests. And if we are going to have devolved power or shared power as it's called in the new, and the subcommittee reports are out, 2 of which are conflicted completely by this act. And thirdly, I think the resource allocation, the biggest issue here is that the total resource allocation decisions will be made by this committee. Now, whilst the constitution says that the resource allocation is by the parliament and only by the parliament, here resource allocation for the actions that this super body is taking is going to be entirely theirs. So firstly I wonder whether this will pass a constitutional review.
Okay.
At that level, because this appears to be against the whole structure of the present constitution, and that's what it will be determined, not other, we don't have a new constitution. That's the first. Secondly, whether it will become constitutional will require the provincial councils. I can't see them doing it. And I can't see any persons who wish to have transparency and who have had the slightest knowledge of how your business in this company is run by having not one person trying to give directions. There is a structure. Now there is no structure in this, because there is no entity created by this who is going to be doing. This is a set of people who will come together, who are going to work for 3 years, and then they are going to be told that they are not sure of the jobs also after 3 years. After 3 years, these people, when the sunset clause comes in, these people are told you will be distributed to various things. Now somebody who's a big shot here, who has say delivered all the goods, might then be transferred to Badulla or Bandaravilla or wherever it is into a provincial ministry. At the same time, for 3 years, the people who are presently doing the job are going to be told, do this, do that.
And they are not going to like it.
They are not going to like it. Okay, let's say they do it. But do you think that a culture of being directed, it's like a dog in your house, if you train him, telling him all the time what to do, and you all can't expect him to do anything other than that after the 3+1 days. But I don't know whether he will wait for the directions. 3 years and 1 day, people are not going to get up and say, we are going to take directions, we are going to decide policy, we are going to review the policy, we are going to act.
Because they have been trained for the past 3 years under that mold.
So I really think that this is developed by a set of people who have not had any experience in running a business, a country, and the whole nation's values. This is some alien values to Sri Lankan culture.
Okay.
I can't
so
see
now
this
we said
succeeding.
that this could be possibly unconstitutional. We said that this could possibly be organized by people who do not know how to run an organization properly. Then I'm going to ask you a question which is a bit out there. We know that the Prime Minister is a very smart person, he's a very shrewd politician. Do you think that this is a long gambit, that this is a misconception or a misdirect that is put on purpose to drag our attention away from some other issue, maybe something like the COPE report on the bond issue, which we've been discussing before this? Just before this piece of legislation came into the limelight and we began discussing this, what we were talking about was Chairman Sunil Hamdanath, Chairman of COPE Sunil Hamdanath, submitting a report, and that report being sent to the Attorney General's Department, and that process was being thoroughly debated in the media. However, as soon as this came along, we had to shift our focus to this. Do you think that this is a long gambit or a clever misdirect?
I don't think so. I think this shows one very clear thought of people with arrogance, people with no care for other people's views, and some egoistic feeling that you need, if you centralize power in one or two people, that they can deliver everything. Now that is totally against every fundamental of management. So this I don't think is meant for that. This is egoistic, arrogance driven. I can do it, I must do it, others can't do it, others are the problem, I'm not the problem. I think if given power to me, I can do it kind of feeling is what comes in. But the most important thing is, even if that were to happen, in some short occasions, this type of strategy might work. But for that, we have to select the right people. Now, the choices made by this government in appointing people and their experience and their way that they have behaved up to now in the last 2 years does not reflect that the right appointments will be made to the key positions.
And I don't think the history of Sri Lankan politics would add anything good to that as well.
Absolutely.
Because we've seen something of this nature being discussed in the media by politicians such as SLFP media spokesperson Mr. Dilan Perera saying, during their government as well, there was someone similar to a super minister in action, although it was unofficial.
Well, that was true, but this goes a little bit more. I mean, if you have let us say, the purpose at one point I heard some key minister saying, purpose of this is to ease business and for us to go up the index on the ease of doing business. Okay. Ease of doing business, can it happen, get us when the 2%, let's take just one aspect, two key institutions, BOI and the Export Development Board are the two critical arms for investment and for exports, which presumably is the target of this bill. Now, they are going to exist. Those two institutions with all their functions will exist.
But they are going to be
redundant. But
their
power has been, their total power has been transferred to an agency. Agency which is not an authority. It is agencies of few people. Now, that agency for development, consisting of whoever who may be there, is only supposed to be having the power, but it doesn't vest in an authority. So, whom do we sue and be sued.
But then again, you can't sue them.
No, I mean sue and sued for not for impunity. Let us say for a contract validity.
Okay.
So a contract that is made will have to be made. What I'm trying to show is that they do not have the power of contract.
Okay.
Because the established bodies with power of contract remains in the institutions that are remaining. But they have no power. They have to register and get a certificate from the agency, but they have to deal and get their jobs done through these people. Now, if there is a mistake or if there is some dispute, where do they go? Do they go there or do they go here? This one-stop shop, this is not one-stop shop. This is many shops with few individuals having the purse strings and the directional power.
And I would like to talk about those few individuals as well. Now, according to the bill, the ministers have the authority, the full authority to appoint whoever they want to these agencies and these development boards. So do you think that this will go well? Because from the past, what we have seen in Sri Lankan political culture being played out, friends are being appointed, their own henchmen are being appointed, and this government doesn't seem to be any different. So do you think that this could provide any difference to this?
Well, I'll tell you that something similar to this, I think they are trying to model the Singapore model into this particular thinking.
Okay.
When Singapore was started by Lee Kuan Yew, he, along with a very few, I think 5 or 6 people, together formed the critical core. Now, where did those 5 or 6 people come? Those 5 or 6 people who initially joined, which included the Sri Lankan Mr. Rajaratne, came not from his friends, did not come from his cronies, did not come from his relatives. They came from the best of the people.
Okay.
They got together, but they created structures which carried out the work. Secondly, we must remember Singapore is much smaller than Sri Lanka. It has no natural resources. It had to change some things. Now here, a few people are going to come who have never worked with, never know the culture of the rural economy. If they come and tell tomorrow that the rural economy must get into nanotechnology, well, they make a direction.
Okay.
So everything must be nanotechnology. Fertilizer must be delivered in nano style. The processing, whatever, it has to be nanotechnology. Now, just by making such a direction, can you change the culture of farmers? It's not possible. I remember somebody saying that some of the people who are today in power said, "Takshanaya kumburata bassano." Now, this was one of the platforms on which they canvassed the elections they lost.
Yeah.
Now, people don't understand what Takshane is. They can't see how the Takshane can get into the Kumbura. They want to get into the Kumbura. That's all that they know. They think that somebody is going to come and take over their property. This is going to create chaos in my books.
Okay. So, on that note, I would like to talk a bit more on the politics aspect of this. Now, you said that this will create, this could create chaos in certain industries. Will this create chaos in the Sri Lankan political structure as well? Because the SLFP has clearly said that they are against it. The provincial councils, which are predominantly being run by the SLFP, seem to be heading towards voting against this draft bill. And the SLFP has openly come out and said, we will never let this bill pass in Parliament. So do you think that this will be the catalyst that forms the split in this coalition government?
I would think that's the most probable result of this, because if you look at Section 15 talks about the objectives of the agency, which says stimulating, expanding national framework, strengthening the economic base with all these. If you look at that, going up to where it is, all the ministers who are going to end up is under siege, reporting on the key issues relating to the competitiveness encounter. The agency is going to do this. They are going to set the policy. What are the other ministers going to do? We have nearly 100 ministers today. What's their role? The role of elected people who are elected by the... Now, by the way, our constitution, neither ministers nor the officials are sovereign. Sovereignty is between you, me and all the people of this country. Now, our sovereignty we have given to a set of people to make legislation. The sovereignty of the people have been given to the judges to make law and interpret the law. It has been given to a third party called the executives. Now that is the structure of our constitution. The legislature, executive and the judiciary. Now here, the functions of all this fundamental core of our constitution is being taken away, and collective responsibility which was with the cabinet is going to be rest with one. Now can you see anybody who has anything called a ministry or a ministerial responsibility, we'll see he goes to the ministry but the directions
Come from somewhere
else. He has no input even. Even the chief ministers are only being consulted. National policy framework in consultation with the chief minister of the royal body, not even concurrence. Then the biggest problem I see is about the demarcated economic areas. Now they are going to develop this by demarcating areas. Now this demarcation of areas is going to be done by 4 or 5 people, whilst entire political structure, entire administration structure, entire delivery structure to people of services, entire resource management structure is defined through the constitution at district level, at Pradeshia level, at urban council level, at the legislative
and all these
level.
local government bodies become redundant through this.
Well, for a period of 3 years, really 6 people will be making the decisions for everybody.
Then do you think that this will lead to a reduction in the number of ministers?
It doesn't reduce, everything remains, so therefore there is waste will continue, the inefficiencies will increase.
They will definitely get that
number of persons really without reducing the number of contact points. This argument is that they will reduce the number of contact points. One person will do everything, and to an investor. Now I can't see an investor coming in under such circumstances making an investment based on 6 people who's not even an authority. And knowing that there is conflict, that it may not happen. We don't know what the policy will be after this. The sunset clause is good in one way but very bad to an investor. Now if you are an investor from abroad, will you be enticed? Unless you are somebody who wants to get a special preferred position there. So this to me will lead to much more corruption, much more inefficiency, and very little transparency, and hardly any accountability, because the structures are not there in place. So if you go back those 4 words, weren't these the 4 words upon which the millions of people here voted a government in on 8th of January?
Definitely.
So I really think that they have forgotten the base of their power. So to me, that's why I say this is a piece of arrogance, a piece of egoism, and a piece of I-ism. I am the person who can deliver, nobody else. Now that's not, our constitutional democracy is not based on an I. It's based on we collectively. And who's the we? We are the people. Now they have forgotten all those fundamentals in this. So I really can't see how this bill can create a Singapore out of Sri Lanka. It cannot also, this government has failed totally to communicate with people. If you take the constitution, or the reconciliation process, or even the budget implementation. What have we seen? We see some things being done ad hoc. The finance minister will say what another minister has to say. Another minister goes and implements something which is of a, because there is cross-cutting, there is no
fixed positions for these people.
Fixed structures. So this is going to make that fluid, few people, unstructured actions. And I can't see investors being attracted to come, other than investors who are looking for rent,
or a special perk or a special benefit out of these.
That's the word rent. I use the word rent is to cover all that, and so really I really think that this bill in my books should not go through. I don't know whether it will go through. It should not go through in the way it is structured.
So now Minister Malik Samaravikrama during a media briefing a couple of days back said that they plan to bring in this piece of legislation to the Parliament in February next year. What happens if the provincial councils reject this legislation but it is passed in Parliament? Because the UNP has 82 members, the SLFP has 82 members, and the rest are constituted like that. So if the UNP manages to get a majority in Parliament and passes this in Parliament, while it has been rejected in the provincial councils, what would happen?
It cannot become law. As the Constitution stands, any bill affecting the provincial councils can only be, or a finance bill, specifically a finance bill, cannot be approved, which affects the concurrent list or the list of things that they are going to do, which have been devolved, cannot be adopted. So it cannot be signed into law. It can be passed in Parliament, but it cannot be signed into law until you get all the provincial councils.
But will there be grounds for public vote on it, referendum on it?
Well, surely I'm sure the government would not want to go to a referendum where the government itself is divided on this, and the provincial councils, it can never pass. So I think, yeah, they would not go through with that.
I would also like to talk about the president here for a bit. There have been instances when ministers came out saying that this bill went through cabinet, so the president also saw this and it has his approval. Then there were SLFP members who came out and said, no, the president is against this bill. By the looks of it, this bill takes away a majority of the powers of the president and vests them in two key ministers. What do you think the president is honestly doing?
I really don't understand how this could have gone through the cabinet, really, because if anybody who had seen the previous bill could have at least said that the policy would have evolved in a way with the involvement of the president, because he had this council of people, and he was a part of the agency functions. Now that his functions have been reduced, but more importantly, the fact that the total accountability which is in a cabinet has now been taken to individual level and into an unstructured individual level. I really think it has not been either understood or this has been rushed through. Somebody during the Face the Nation the other day said it may not have even been really approved by cabinet, but I don't think so that they would have got it approved by cabinet. But really, I mean, tourism, exports, investments in ICT, but there are some strange things in this. In the earlier bill, for instance, there was a creation of a electricity for power sector agency. Now that's gone missing here. I really don't know why that has been done. There was an agency for infrastructure.
Unfortunately, Mr. Jayaratne, we are going to have to cut it short there. We are out of time.
Just to say, finally, some of the things that are mistaken out from that, has it been taken out to avoid some of the areas in which some ministers could have had some. So I don't know whether this is thinking that I can trick that through and get this thing through kind of idea, rather than diversion, as you pointed out. But I cannot see this being good for the country, good for the people, and within the law that this can go through as it is.
Now, as a media organization, we have complete faith in your activities as well as the activities of civil personalities such as yourself. So we hope that we could work together in the future as well on pieces of legislation such as this. Right. Now, it seems that we have been given an extended bit of time, so we could go on for a couple of more minutes. I would like to talk about the impunity clause, and one thing that it says is that any actions done in goodwill can be exempt from prosecution, or something to that extent. What is this term goodwill? It's so loosely based that it could apply to almost anything.
Now, it's bad faith and good faith are things that are in the law to be interpreted, of course. But here there is an additional word. Even today, if you have done some action in good faith, I mean, let us say you decide to distribute some drugs to control malaria or dengue, and then that gives rise to a new kind of virus developing in people. You did it in good, so long as you did it in good faith, you cannot be held liable because you did it with the best of intention. So that's there in the law. But here there is an additional word. It says done in good faith or purported to have been done in good faith. Now, what does, we'll have to get a new interpretation of what purported. It is, I would say in English, if you think, no, you don't have to do it, but you think that, you don't have to prove. Does it mean that you don't have to prove your good faith? As long as I did it, thinking it's good faith, enough to get through. So to me, that other clauses in the impunity are there in other acts. Presently, it's available in other acts. But what does this word purported to have been done in good faith mean? Is something that people must focus very. Is it to get some? You can do all the bad things. You can even personally benefit. But if you did it out of good faith, if you thought, even in conflict you did something, but if it was purported for good faith, you are exempt, is the real issue that needs the attention of the public.
And one more question, Mr. Jayaratne. How do you think the Sri Lankan media and the civil society has reacted to this piece of draft legislation?
Well, I think it is because I haven't seen this I watch a lot of news. I haven't seen it in other than with your station. I haven't seen this. I think people haven't understood this. Academics have also still not voiced their opinion. Opinion leaders haven't. And unfortunately, I think civil society has also lost. I really think that the loss of Reverend Madhurave Sobita has allowed this kind of things to slip through and to be done, because there is no real strong voice today representing the people who can take these things up. So we have to depend on the media to do that and to hold the power of the people by bringing to their attention the real dangers of what is happening.
Do you think we as a media organization have been doing enough to create awareness on this bill?
I watch, unfortunately, I can say that you have done more than your share in the English media. I don't know on the vernacular side whether you have done enough. I really think you should do some Satana programs in Sinhala and some of your Tamil talk shows too, to bring this up. And I think I have had a discussion with one of your people asking it to be done at 2 levels. Let's bring in the politicians at 1 level and let them debate it. Let's bring the academics and the professionals at another level, and both must start looking at really what is happening. Because give one example to you, the power sector, we are going to hit power problems next year. Can you imagine whatever the carrots that are in this particular bill can offer? Any investor will come here if you are going to have brownouts and blackouts next year.
True. And that's not the only crisis that we are going to be facing. We will be facing a shortage of rice. We will be facing a shortage of rice in the future as well. And in addition to that, Mr. Jayaratne, we would, as a media organization, the management of this media organization wants to fully support you in your activities as well as the activities of civil societies like you in order to create more awareness on pieces of draft legislation such as this that could have a detrimental impact or could have a serious impact on the direction of this country. And on that note, we would like to conclude this special and riveting Newsline program. For the News First team, I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara signing off and wishing you a very Merry Christmas.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.